And this year's award goes to a 32-year elected state prosecutor who is the living embodiment of what the Charles English Award stands for. Matt Redle will retire at the end of this year after 32 years as an elected county and prosecuting attorney in Sheridan, Wyoming. He preceded me as chair of the section and has been a long-time council member. As chair of the section, I observed him ensure that all voices were heard and that the dialogue of our council, our governing council, was spirited, but it was not hostile. He is truly, and I say this sincerely, and I told him, he's one of the most decent and honorable lawyers that I've encountered in my 43 years of practice. I had visions, and this is somewhat of an inside joke, but I had visions of cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. A 10-gallon one at that. Well, I learned very quickly that Matt was one special cowboy because he's never owned cowboy boots and he's never owned a cowboy hat. But we learned that he is a very, very special prosecutor and human being, and we are indebted to Matt in this section. And it is my privilege to give this award to my friend, Matt Redle.
Cal's another Wyoming prosecutor. And Cal received the Millie Award some time ago for his handling of the Matthew Shepard murder. And we didn't celebrate, we noted the anniversary, the 20th anniversary of that last month. And so I want to thank them for their belief in me. And thanks to our wonderful staff, past and present. Kevin does a great job, and Jack Hanna was also a great director for the section. I tend to associate the English Award with the preamble to the model rules of professional conduct. And for you lawyers out there, if you haven't looked at the preamble recently, it says in part that a lawyer has the responsibility to seek improvement of the law, of access to justice, and of the quality of service lawyers provide. Each of us has an opportunity to meet that responsibility in our own communities. Some of us have the opportunity to do so in our home states, but for most it's rare to have the opportunity to serve the rule of law in a national forum. That is the opportunity that the section provides through the resolution development process. In the 3 minutes I'm allotted, I cannot thank everyone that deserves my thanks. And so, to everyone that I've had the pleasure of working with, and sometimes the discomfort of working with, I'd like to thank you all. I look at the list of past recipients of this award, and I see a list of people who have mentored me, whether they were aware of it or not. First among those was Bob Johnson. He encouraged me to become active in the section. He also found a committee for me to chair where I couldn't do a lot of damage. And he talked my friend Matt Heck into appointing me to be a liaison to standards. And our chairman of the standards committee at that time was Erwin Schwartz. And it was there that I also met Albert Krieger. Neil Sonnet has mentored me on the House of Delegates and the big ABA, and whether he's aware of it or not, I always learn a tremendous amount from listening to Neil and paying heed to the word that he whispers in my ear. Myrna Rader invited me to work with her on issues that were related to forensic science and got me involved in working with people like Paul Juvenile and others that over the years have worked in that area as well. Andy Taslix was a friend and a mentor to me on the Standards Committee and on council. Thanks also goes to my contemporaries as chairs of the section, Janet and Sandy and Jim, and particularly Judge Donald. Bernice always found ways to include me in so many things, and I really appreciate that. I'm also very happy to follow Nina Marino as a recipient of this award. Nina was my first co-writer on a CJS resolution, and that was very special for me, and she was very kind in that process. And last, let me thank two people who, for me and for so many others, have been constant sources of hope and inspiration. Steve Salter and Ron Goldstock. I never thought I would ever say the words helpful, inspirational, and Goldstock. Those of you who are from the council know what I mean. Thank you.
I would like to invite Katherine, Earl, and Gaines with Keynes, Markman, and Fellman to the podium to introduce this year's recipient of the Livingston Hall Juvenile Justice Award, Rosemary Armstrong.
And I'm thrilled to be here today to introduce Rosemary Armstrong as the recipient of this award, because I cannot think of anyone more deserving, who is more of an inspiration to anybody who cares about issues surrounding juvenile justice. Rosemary has dedicated her career to service of the most vulnerable in our society. And in 2012, Rosemary recognized that there was a huge unmet need for attorneys ad litem for children in foster care. Florida is one of the few states that does not provide attorneys for children who are in the foster care system, with the result that essentially everybody in a dependency proceeding is represented by counsel except for the child that the proceeding is about. In response to this need, Rosemary founded Crossroads for Florida Kids, a nonprofit organization that provides attorneys with training on representing children in dependency and delinquency proceedings and matches pro bono attorneys with children who are in desperate need of their help. Along with herself representing numerous children, Rosemary continues to serve as the executive director of Crossroads. She has worked tirelessly for years to spread the word about the need for pro bono representation for children in the foster care system and to recruit attorneys to represent them. Under Rosemary's leadership, Crossroads has grown to include over 100 pro bono attorneys who have collectively donated more than 10,000 hours of pro bono service to dependent and delinquent children. Rosemary's advocacy on behalf of children has also extended far beyond Crossroads. And there's no way to give a complete list, but among other things, Rosemary has lobbied for legislation in Florida that benefits foster children and children in the juvenile justice system. She's formed a task force to address the problem of the overuse of direct filing of criminal cases against juveniles in adult court. And these are just a few examples of the tremendous work Rosemary has done to serve children. Please join me in congratulating Rosemary Armstrong on her well-deserved selection for the 2018 Livingston Hall Juvenile Justice Award.
Crossroads for Florida Kids attorneys, me included, we are the foot soldiers in the fight for juvenile justice in Hillsborough County, that's Tampa. Livingston Hall and Professor Anino, who will get an award today, they're the generals. but we're the foot soldiers and proud to be so. Now, Katherine, I also thank you for saying a lot of things that I was going to say, so that helps me with my 3 minutes. I would say that Crossroads found its home in something called the crossover division when we first started. Our first training was in October 2012, and the crossover judge, that is the judge who oversees the dependency division, kids who are in foster care who have picked up delinquency charges. He came to our training and he asked for attorneys, pro bono attorneys, to represent one of the kids, a girl, a teen girl, who had been direct filed. Florida is a direct file state, and that means that children are charged as adults. And this girl had done so, what was direct filed. And it was Katherine Yanis and her partner, Jim Fellman, who represented her. And the main problem was, and if you were in the prosecutor breakout section just prior to this, and you heard about bail reform, the main issue with this girl getting out of jail was that she couldn't post bail. And then they come into a beleaguered, underfunded foster care system in Florida anyway, traumatized. And they don't get all the treatment they needed. Kids in foster care, studies show, are much more likely to pick up delinquency charges and eventually to be in jail. What we didn't know was that so many of our clients would be direct filed, that kids that we represented, we were shocked when they would be direct filed. And that's one thing I learned to see, to be able to tell, to have it on my radar screen when a kid that I represented who had delinquency charges was perhaps getting close, and then talking to the public defender and doing mitigation package to try to keep them from being direct filed. And sometimes we were successful. So yes, a child without an attorney is like an object on a conveyor belt, without much ability to control his or her destiny. You have to earn their trust. With all these kids have been through, you have to spend time with them. You go to their placement. That placement may be in a juvenile detention center. It may be in a jail. It may just be in an awful group home, which a lot of teens are in. Most of our clients are teens. So you earn their trust, hopefully, and we usually do. And then we are able to find out exactly what they want. And advice and counsel, people say, well, how do you represent children? How do you represent even teens? Because they know their lives the best. They may tell you they want certain things, but when you explain to them that that's not likely to happen, and here's another option that is likely to happen, they go along with it, and they're very happy for your advocacy. I meet with prospective attorneys to make sure they understand that they must earn the trust of children in foster care by spending time with them outside the courtroom, and we do. I don't want them to disappoint the children. I don't want them to be disappointed, because the children that we represent, they may only take small steps towards success. If you're thinking that you're going to be able to turn their lives around, you may be able to, but you may not. Some of the kids we've represented for years, and we have seen dramatic changes, but it doesn't happen to all the children. You have to celebrate their small successes as if they were huge successes, because they are huge successes. A few months ago, I learned that 2 Crossroads clients who had been direct filed were in lockdown solitary confinement at our county jail. Not because they did anything wrong, but for concern about their safety in the juvenile pod. I've been inside the juvenile lockdown area. I went there because I was kind of in a hurry, and the guard said, well, if you come in here, then you'll be able to talk. I had 2 clients in there. Take you in there. So I had never been in there before. You cannot see inside the door. It's totally solid. And so I was talking to the client, and he said, you have to put your head down because there's about 3 inches at the bottom of the door. So there I was. Tragic to do that, except I got to see inside his small cell, which was like a concrete closet with just a pallet on there. And this is a kid, one of the kids who was in there for safety concerns. So I contacted the sheriff, and I'm married, if you don't know, I'm married to Sandy Weinberg. So we talked about cases, and he was one of the founders of Crossroads as well. So he told me about a resolution that was passed in 2017. Children should not be in solitary confinement. And so I emailed over a copy of that, and the kids were out, and they haven't been back. Now, there's others who are in there, including kids who have mental health issues. So we're advocating now for a mental health unit for juveniles in this jail. They have one for adults, but not for children. Go figure. I wish I could say foster care is getting better in Hillsborough County. It's not. We have had a large increase in the numbers of children sheltered in place and out of home care without a commensurate increase in funding to care for them. Case managers who used to average 15 to 18 children to oversee now have 30 children. Children who are hard to place, many of whom are Crossroads clients, have awful night-to-night placements. They never know where they're going to go, and that's only to sleep at night. Sometimes they sleep in their case manager's office, or at times even in their cars. How are we going to treat the trauma children experience that brought them into foster care if we don't give them the therapy they need and show them what it means to be a part of a good family? In the aftermath of the horrific killing of worshipers last Saturday at a Pittsburgh synagogue, I listened on national public radio to a rabbi speak about the Torah's instruction to help what he calls strangers in our midst, people who are disadvantaged. The killings would not deter him from doing so. And by strangers in the midst, he meant disadvantaged people whose lives are different than ours. I thought of the many children we have shown a light on who were strangers in our midst until we began representing them, giving them a real voice through our advocacy. Our pro bono attorneys often say what an eye-opener it is to represent poor kids in our community. These children who are often strangers in our midst. And I would say, it sounds like with the stories I'm telling you about the children we represent, that it would be hard to recruit pro bono attorneys. I used to go to bar sections and talk about it. I wouldn't tell everything, but I would, speak about how rewarding it is. And I always go out to lunch with the prospective attorneys and talk to them about, some of the real issues. But now, more than ever, I have attorneys in the area call me, and because word of mouth, they were referred to me through colleagues in their law firms or lawyers that they know in the community. Because there are so many attorneys who really do want to help poor kids in our community. So thank you very much. It's been my joy to do this work. It is a lot of work, and Sandy knows, it is a lot of work, but I really think that we're making a difference in the lives of these children. I hope that these programs will pop up all over Florida and elsewhere. Thank you.
I'd like to invite now Anne Ratnayaki Macy with the National Center for Child Abuse Statistics and Policy to the podium to introduce this year's recipients of the Frank Carrington Crime Victim Attorney Award, the Navy Victims Legal Counsel Program, represented here today by Charlotte Cluverius, the Deputy Chief of Staff.
My name is Anne Macy, and I serve as the co-chair of the Victims Committee for 2018 to 2019. And it is my absolute pleasure to be here today to present the Frank Carrington Crime Victim Attorneys Award. Frank Carrington was a tremendous leader in the crime victims movement. He founded Valor, the Victims Assistance Legal Organization. He was an ED of the National Organization for Victims Assistance. He served on the California Attorney General's Task Force for Violent Crimes, served on the Presidential Task Force for Victims of Crime, and last but not least, served as a vice chair of the Victims Committee for CJS. Now, the award named in his honor is given to an attorney or an organization that has demonstrated leadership for victims' rights. And the 2018 recipient, the Navy Victims Legal Council, has done just that. The Navy Victims Legal Council provides survivors of sexual assault with a dedicated attorney that represents only the survivor's interests. So the survivor is prepared to participate more comfortably and effectively within the investigation and prosecution of the case. And with that, I'd like to invite Charlotte up.
Captain Lisa Sullivan, who is our Chief of Staff of the Navy Victims Legal Counsel Program and who could not be here today. For those of you who don't speak Navy, the captain is a colonel equivalent there in the back. Just having fun with my Army brethren. So no, we're honored to be here, and we want to thank the ADA Criminal Justice Section for taking note of our program and honoring us in this way, and not just for our own internal pride at what we do, but a little bit of history. In 2013, all of the services stood up a similar program to represent victims of sexual offenses throughout the military. And the one thing that is, one thing I guess is great about the military is when the military is going to do something, you do it and you do it quickly. And I know we stood up our program in a matter of months, including training council and filling billets in 33 places around the world. On the Navy side, and the Army, the Air Force, and the Marine Corps, and the Coast Guard all did similar things. So for the past 5 years, we've been a bit of a grand experiment because there are no other services like this provided in any state or on the federal level to provide at no cost, or at the government's cost, I should say, provide confidential legal advice and representation to victims of sexual offenses. So we have been this experiment, and we hope it catches on. And the one thing that I can say, there are a lot of details about what we do and how we do it and where we do it in the handout today, but the real success is the people, and that's why I have 2 officers with me. I couldn't bring all 33, so I brought 2 of our many superstars, and I'd like to introduce them briefly. Lieutenant Paul Wagner is out of the San Diego office, which is one of our major fleet concentration areas, where we have 5 victims legal counsel stationed. He's one of our more junior victims legal counsel, and we're lucky to get him. He came to us in his second tour in the Navy, but before he joined the Navy, he had a civilian career which included appellate work. And with appellate law being a burgeoning area for victims, we lean on him very hard as part of our appellate team to move forward the area of victims advocacy in the appellate arena. So we're very lucky to have Lieutenant Wagner with us. By the way, that's a captain in the Army. And on my right is Commander Claire Huffstetler. She's assigned here in the Washington, D.C. area, so she spends way too much time at the Pentagon, I think. But she's one of our more senior victims legal counsel, and she comes from a different background. She has spent a great deal of time on ships, a lot of aircraft carriers, serving on aircraft carriers generally, but then ultimately advising commanders of ships on a whole array of issues, including how to handle and process properly cases involving sexual offenses that occur on board ships in the United States Navy. And it's this breadth and diversity of experience and backgrounds that we have and that we're lucky enough to have in the Navy Victims Legal Counsel program that makes our program such a success, and we hope that this experiment is something that the outside world, the civilian world is watching, that this can be done, it can be successful. We don't measure success in the ways that I think were originally anticipated. We don't measure success by more prosecutions or more convictions. Sure, we hope for those things, in the criminal justice process, we always hope for that. But that's not how we measure our success. Our success is measured by the fact that even where a victim's case does not go the way they want it, either it doesn't go to trial at all, or it becomes an acquittal at trial, these victims feel like they knew all of their choices, were completely educated, were represented by a confidential attorney of their own, And they were able to make all of their choices in an educated fashion, and their voice was heard through the advocacy of their own attorney, either in a court-martial or in any other administrative proceeding, or just in terms of providing what we call impact statements to the commanding officer after a sexual offense is reported. So the impact for our victims and the ability for them to move on, move forward, and feel empowered to recover and go on to be productive members of society, hopefully remain productive members of the military, is invaluable. And we're hoping that that is something that catches on as we continue to represent about 1,800 victims of sexual offense a year. They are active duty service members, but they're also dependents, their spouses, their minor children. We represent all of those folks in the Navy family who need assistance and guidance, navigation, if you will, through the military justice process after they've made a report of a sexual offense and need to move forward with that case. So I would not be standing here without excellent officers like these who make this program what it is, and without the leadership that the Navy has shown in putting together this program in a way that we can go out and do our job and make sure that we're taking care of these victims in the right way and making sure that they can continue with their vital job defending the United States of America. Thank you so much.
To introduce the winner of this year's Minister of Justice Award, Kevin Curtin. Steve.
For years, we gave this award. It was simply called the Minister of Justice Award. Norm Mailing was the prosecutor in King County, Washington. Seattle, 13th most populous district in the area of the country. He was an elected DA for many years. Did remarkable things. My wife and I lived out there for a while. Got to know his reputation in the community. It was superb. He died way too early. And because of our respect for him, we named this the Norm Mailing Minister of Justice Award. Just one of the things he did, for example, he wanted to have a diversion program way earlier than many. But he knew, here's the problem that a lot of prosecutors face. He convicts people and sends them to prison the state pays for it. He wants to have a diversion program. King County has to pay for it. And so he went to the legislature. And he said, I want to have a diversion program. It's going to be in the best interest of everybody. But I need you to give me some of the money you'd otherwise spend on prison. And they gave it to him. And that's the Norm Mailing Award. Now, Kevin Curtin. You can read about him in the book. I'm not repeating the stuff in that book. I got some other things to say. He's a prosecutor. He's in charge of every grand jury in Boston. That's not the thing, though, that's most important to me. You see, I've known Kevin most of his life. Kevin's father, Jack, was a hero of mine. Jack Curtin was president of the American Bar Association. And he was, we have had great presidents, but no one was better than Jack Curtin. And one of the things that some of us will remember, I see Neil at the back, and he'll remember this, when the Vice President of the United States, Dan Quayle, came to an annual meeting of the ABA. And he came there to tell us everything that was wrong with civil justice in the United States. And when he was finished trashing civil justice, he was about to leave when Jack Curtin took him by the elbow and said, "Not so fast, Mr. Vice President," and proceeded to tell him about what was right with justice. Not perfect, but that what was right. And he was a hero to me. Once I spoke on the floor of the House of Delegates, and when I left, he said something to me. And I said, "Jack, someday put that in writing, would you?" And so one day he did. He put it in writing, and it sits in the front hallway of our house. If you walk in, you will see this photo signed by Jack Curtin. That's how much it meant to me. Now, Kevin, since he's joined the criminal justice section and become active, has done remarkable things. When President Erdogan rounded up judges and rounded up lawyers and rounded up teachers and rounded up journalists in Turkey, Kevin Curtin took the lead for the Massachusetts bar, drafted a resolution condemning President Erdogan, urging to let these people free. And then Kevin presented this in the House of Delegates. I had the pleasure of hearing him make his presentation. It was magnificent.
I give you the compliment that he told me was the highest compliment he could ever give to a lawyer, which is that you have a passion for justice. A passion. That's what we have. That's what brings us here. Judge Donald, I want to thank you, Judge Donald, for appointing me into a leadership position, even though it wasn't clear that how I would do. And whether, she asked me, she said, will you show up? I said, yes, Judge Donald, I will, I promise. So thank you, Judge Donald. Matt Redle, I want to thank Matt Redle, who advanced me, who supported me, who's been a close friend, who's been a mentor, has done for me a great deal. Steve Salzberg has been like in my life for all my life, and I feel like Matt Redle is a part of my ABA life in that pantheon. So thank you, Matt, and Sandy. I want to thank you as well for continuing to support me. So many people thank the ABA staff, and what an honor to be with people like this, people like Matt, Rosemary, the 33 JAG officers who serve in the Navy Victims Legal Council, and their management, and Professor Paolo Anino, who we will soon learn more about. It's an incredibly humbling honor. I got a chance to learn a little bit about mailing and researching, and some of the people who've received this award as well. I don't have time to talk about that.
Former students drafted a letter and signed on to it, raving about Paolo, stating, he employs a perfect balance of giving invaluable guidance while encouraging us to spread our wings and take the lead on our cases. Justin Karp noted, he teaches students how to be effective advocates because he leads by example. He advocates just as zealously for his students as he does for the interest of justice. Daniel Claiborne stated, I currently work in public interest. I will always work in public interest, in part due to the impact Paolo has had on me. Rima Nathan expressed her gratitude this way. Professor Anino has helped me grow into a type of lawyer that I can be proud of. See how much of an impact he has had over the years.
There is no such thing as neutral sentencing. What's so fascinating when I reread her articles, 1993, what we know now is, especially children I call them 0 to 5s, from birth to 5 years old, children 0 to 5 need sensitive caregivers. There's no way around it. We're hardwired to need sensitive caregivers. And if a baby does not have a sensitive caregiver, neurologically and developmentally, they become injured. And when I say neurologically injured, they are neurologically injured for the rest of their lives. So this idea that we can always bounce back is romantic. So the science shows that. So she realized, Professor Rader realized that sentencing primary caregivers really do injure children, and that judges need to be sensitive and need to come up with creative ways to deal with this issue so not to injure children. So I am totally honored to receive this award and to walk in the steps of Professor Rader and Professor Gaslitz. Thank you.